The taxi ground to a halt at the edge of the dirt road, its tires crunching on the dry earth of the high Atlas Mountains. As the sun dipped below the horizon, it painted the village of Imlil in long blood-red shadows. "I go no further, Sidi," the driver said, his eyes fixed forward, refusing to meet Karim's gaze. His hand clutched a string of prayer beads dangling from the rearview mirror. "But the house is another kilometer up," Karim protested. He'd traveled all the way from Casablanca to see this place, a traditional riad his grandfather had left him, a property that had been sealed for 40 years. The driver just muttered, "The money is enough." He unlocked the doors. "That place, Dar L'Mkhfi, the house of the unseen. It doesn't belong to humans anymore. Walk if you must, but recite the mu'idhatin, the protective verses, before you step over its threshold." Karim sighed, grabbed his duffel bag, and stepped out into the twilight. He watched the taxi speed away in a cloud of dust, leaving him enveloped in a profound silence. The climb was steep. With every step, the air grew colder, the scent of pine and damp earth filling his lungs. When the house finally appeared, it was both magnificent and terrifying, a fortress of dark stone and cedar wood perched precariously on a cliff's edge, utterly alone. He found the rusted iron key and slid it into the lock of the heavy wooden door. It groaned open, revealing a courtyard smothered in decades of dust. In the center, a dry fountain, tiled with intricate blue and green zellige, sat like a forgotten tomb. "Hello," Karim called out. His voice echoed back, but the echo felt delayed, almost as if it were mocking him. There was no electricity, of course. Karim lit a gas lantern he'd packed, and the shadows immediately began to dance on the walls, twisting into long, distorted figures. He decided to make some tea to fight off the encroaching chill. In the kitchen, he found an old gas stove that, to his surprise, sputtered to life. He boiled a kettle of water. Once it was ready, he mindlessly walked over to the stone sink and poured the extra boiling water straight down the drain. A horrifying sound erupted from the pipes. It wasn't the hiss of steam. It was a scream, a deep, guttural, shrieking cry that seemed to claw its way up from the very bowels of the earth, vibrating through the floorboards beneath his feet. Karim dropped the kettle with a clang. "Bismillah," he shouted, his heart pounding against his ribs like a drum. And then, silence. A silence that was heavy, oppressive, and suffocating. He tried to rationalize it. It had to be the old plumbing, just air escaping rusted pipes. That's all it was. Shaken, he retreated to the main salon for the night, wrapping himself in a thick wool blanket he found in a chest. He eventually drifted into an uneasy sleep. He woke up at exactly 3 a.m. The temperature had plummeted. It was freezing cold, so cold he could see his own breath fogging in the faint light of the lantern. But it wasn't the cold that had woken him. It was a sound, click-clack, click-clack, a sound coming from inside the house. Karim sat bolt upright, frozen in place. The sound was coming from the courtyard, a slow, rhythmic pacing on the stone tiles. It sounded wrong, like a heavy goat, but walking on 2 legs. Click-clack, the sound stopped right outside the salon door. Karim held his breath, every muscle tensed. The door had no lock. Through the frosted glass pane, he saw a silhouette. It was tall, far too tall to be a man. It was draped in what looked like rags, and where its feet should have been, the shadow showed the distinct, sharp outline of hooves. Then, a low, raspy voice whispered from the other side of the glass. It spoke in an ancient, guttural dialect of Tamazight, the words seeming to scrape the air. "You burned my child." Karim's blood turned to ice. The boiling water, the drain, the old superstition his grandmother used to warn him about flooded his mind. Never, ever, pour hot water without saying Bismillah, for you might burn the Jinn who live below. I didn't know," Karim stammered, his voice a trembling whisper. "I am sorry, Smalley. Forgive me." The door handle began to turn. Slowly, the sound of metal screeching against rust was deafening in the silence. Karim scrambled backward, his back hitting the cold, unforgiving wall. He began reciting Ayat al-Kursi, the throne verse, his panic making him stumble over the sacred words. The door flew open with a violent bang. There was nothing there, just the empty courtyard, bathed in the pale, eerie light of the moon. But the smell hit him like a physical blow, the putrid stench of sulfur, wet fur, and burning hair. He ran. He didn't think. He just ran. He left his bag, his phone, his grandfather's legacy, everything. He sprinted out of the salon, across the haunted courtyard, and burst through the heavy front door into the freezing night. He didn't stop running, his lungs on fire, his feet bleeding inside his boots, until he tumbled into the village below. He found the local imam just as the call for Fajr, the dawn prayer, began to echo through the valley. The old man took one look at Karim's pale, terror-stricken face. "You poured the water," the imam stated. It wasn't a question. Karim could only nod, unable to form words. "You are lucky, son," the imam said, his gaze drifting up to the dark silhouette of the house on the cliff. "They only wanted to scare you this time. Whatever is in that house has been there long before your grandfather, and it will be there long after you." Karim never went back. He sold the land for a fraction of its worth to a foreign investor who planned to build a luxury hotel. A few months later, Karim saw a news article online. Construction at the Imlil site had been abruptly halted. A worker had mysteriously fallen from the roof. The article said the other workers refused to return to the job. They all claimed the same thing. At night they could hear a child crying from the drains, and the unmistakable sound of hooves pacing the newly tiled floors.